Hi there, everyone, and welcome to the Athlete Cafe.
Hi guys, I'm Carly, former collegiate lacrosse player.
I'm Abby, former gymnast and collegiate dancer.
I'm Frances, former collegiate track athlete.
And I'm Emily, former collegiate volleyball player. Let's get into today's topics and see what's on the menu.
Large cappuccino. Orders up.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Athlete Cafe. We are here for another episode. Today, we're going to kind of talk about team culture, team cohesion, what that meant to all of us in our individual sports, the male versus female perspective and things like that. I will not go more than 5 more seconds without acknowledging our wonderful jerseys that we have on. We have a very heated office and team of things. Frances isn't on screen with us, but she is also a Bills fan. Emily's not on screen today, but she is also a Browns fan. Mm-hmm. Michael and I are currently feuding. He wants nothing more than to get away from me right now.
You guys are really far apart.
Yeah, I'll just say go Birds.
The couch isn't long enough.
Yeah, he's really, really unhappy with me right now. For those of you not physically watching us, Michael is in a Patriots jersey. I am in an Eagles jersey.
6-time world champion.
Backup quarterback Super Bowl. So
Browns, nothing. Super Bowl this year.
And
Bills?
Bills Mafia represent up here.
This is their year, guys. This is their year.
This is it. Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, do your thing.
Yeah, right.
That's it.
For all of our teams that are listening to this,
Yeah.
No, right. It's that idea of first week of
NFL back
of season and the friendly camaraderie that can be not so friendly sometimes, but it's fun and it's just part of that whole team dynamic of there's so much that goes into that, and part of it comes from even being fans of teams and that team dynamic and everything. So definitely. Yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah. So I think a good place to kind of start is the uniqueness of this group, right? We have 2 individual sport people, gymnastics and tennis, and we have 2 team sport people. And I think kind of going through the differences and kind of what you guys saw in your experiences versus us, I think would be a good place to start and see kind of what themes are either similar or different between the 2. So for you guys, team cohesion and the individual sport piece, it's a lot of pressure on the individual, right? So what was that like for you guys?
Yeah. Do you want to?
Sure. I can go first. So gymnastics was interesting, especially I always think of kind of the summers with when I was training is where it kind of all started. And, when I was growing up, I was, 6, 7, 8 years old. We were in the gym 9 hours a day. We trained 9 hours a day, 5 days a week. I think Friday afternoons we got to go swimming with the summer camp kids, and we had an early practice that day, and I think we were still there for 5 hours. And I had one teammate, talk about team cohesion. She lived about an hour away from where my gym was. There wasn't a lot of gymnastics around where I grew up. So her mom and dad would drive her an hour to practice on Monday morning. Then she'd live with me all week long. And then Friday after practice, her mom would come pick her back up. Or, she would drive to and from practices with our coach because our coach also lived out in her area. And, she basically was my sibling at that point, which for better or worse, because, we were the same age. So we were in the same age group. We were the same level. So she basically was my sister. And then she was good. She was a talented gymnast. And we would battle it out, spot for spot, 10th for 10th. And, I'm going to share this with her because I think it'd be funny, for Becca to listen to this. But I loved her. I loved her so much, but she was the person I hated the most on my team because she was the one where I knew day in and day out, I know how many reps she's doing. I know what her routines are looking like. I know that her casts are bigger than mine on bars. I know her vaults are more powerful. I know that she's executing things better than me. And I had to stare that in the face all day, every day, and then go home and want to go walk around the neighborhood with her where there was other girls from other teams that I knew were good, but I wouldn't see what they were doing all day long, all week long before meets kind of rolled around. But for her, I'd go into some of these meets and be like, I've already lost. Becca's got better routines than I do. Or there's another girl, Emily, she's got better routines than I do. And I mean, we were still placing 1, 2, 3 on every event and everything. But it was hard because they were my teammates. They were my best friends. They were basically my siblings. But they were my biggest competitors and they were my biggest threats.
Yeah.
So it just was so hard because you wanted to love them and train with them. But you also we're competing directly against them sometimes, not even with them, against them.
Yeah, no, and that's like the similar thing with tennis. Like you're competing against all of your teammates as much as you're competing against, the other people on the other side of the net. Like you have to work your way up the ladder. You start with the rankings and you just have to try to build and beat people ahead of you on your team just so that you can get a spot in the spot that you want or the spot you want to keep, just to be able to compete against the other people. And you do that the entire season. You're in fear of losing your spot. You have to keep going. You have to keep finding ways to win and compete against those other people who are also your like friends, your teammates, the other captains on your teams, and it was just really difficult to do sometimes. And like you always had different, like, you had good days obviously and some bad days, but you never knew when that challenge was coming for the most part. It would just happen. And then you just had to be ready. And I mean, it would prepare you, I guess, for match days and when they would happen. But like that stress of always, not knowing if you had the spot that you had to try to keep your spot the entire time, or being able to keep up with everyone else too. Because everyone else is also improving as you're also improving is something that I think is a little different, on the individual side couch over here compared to the team sport side couch, right? I feel like with the team sport, you like earn your spot and then you've earned that spot for that season. But throughout the whole season, I could move up and down the ladder.
Right.
Yeah. And I think, sticking with the individual sport piece of it, there was that intense competition between your own teammates, and they were the ones that, they could beat you out and all of that thing. But it also was in some ways so reassuring to have those people there that, they knew just how hard my conditioning was. They knew just how tough my coaches were. They knew just how much I was pushing every single day, in and out every single day. They knew how much effort I was putting in. So when we would get to those meets and I really struggled on bars. That was my weakest event. It always was. I'd go out and I'd hit a beautiful bar routine. And, I wasn't the one to kind of jump around and scream and, hype myself up, but they were there doing it with me because they know just how hard I had busted my butt to get it. And it didn't even matter what the score was. I never was a high scoring bar worker. It just wasn't my thing. But like, I remember they were the ones that are like, oh my gosh, we did like months of that one specific drill for that one specific skill, and you finally did it. So they were my biggest competitors, but in some ways they knew everything I had done to work for what I had in my sport, and they were always the first ones there to be like, holy crap, like you just did that. Like, that's so cool. So half the time it was such a love-hate relationship, but like it really, it was a different feeling being on an individual's team, but you're still the only one out there competing, and it all kind of came down to you, but they were there to back you up.
Yeah, I kind of I'm honestly, and maybe Brayden, you'll feel differently, but I'm hearing a lot of similarities in how I felt on a team sport.
I kind of love that.
I know. And I think maybe the bigger difference is like, you are the only one out there doing it.
Yeah.
Like with a team sport, I felt very similar things. Like, and to go to your point, Michael, like, I did have to beat people out, and my coach was big on like, you might start this game, but the next game might not start. Like, you are always working for that position and that spot. And I did feel that competition to beat people out. I was comparing, but at the end of the day, we are all working towards the same goal, and we are all on the field essentially like at the same time. So 12 girls on the field at the same time. Some people are on the bench, but you can go in and work towards that goal. I think for you guys, it was more like, you individually have your own goals, and every single person on your team or whatever has their own individual goal that they're working towards, which is interesting.
Yeah. And it's one of those, like, I always remember conditioning was the big thing. And, I always said when I was coaching gymnastics, I will be the first to admit I cheated my conditioning all the time. If they said 9 pull-ups, I was doing 7 or 8. And like, looking back, I wish I could change that. And, I've grown so much, but I used to tell the kids that I coach, like, if you can find new ways to cheat on conditioning that I didn't personally try, I'll let you get away with it. But it's one of those things that, like, we would do relay races. Like, that was a big conditioning thing. Or we would do like the shuttle runs and things like that. And I remember being like, okay, I want to work harder than them. Like, I want to do it. And so it's like we were conditioning together, and there was that camaraderie of like, we want to go and win a team medal or a team trophy, but like, I'm still in it to compete for myself. And like, them working hard on this conditioning doesn't directly impact my goals. So I have to be the one to work hard, and we have the same assignment, but like, I'm not going to let them down if I don't do the conditioning.
And I think that's the key difference there, right? Like, I mean, there were many times on the field for me, and I'm sure for you, Brayden, where I was like, dang, that just cost us the entire game. Like, or my mistake or a teammate of mine's, like, that was the deal breaker. That end, that's the game, and you didn't get that last saved goal, or you didn't score in the last 2 seconds. Like, we just lost, and that was on you. Essentially, that's what it feels like. There's so many other things that brought us to that point now that I'm old enough to understand that, but you feel the responsibility for everyone else's success too.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things in like team sports as well. Like, kind of as you're just alluding to, like, as an individual, right? Like tennis or gymnastics, you make an error, you make a mistake. At the end of the day, like, that's you kind of looking yourself in the mirror, like, hey, I got to do better next time. But for a team, it's like, for baseball, you miss a fly ball, run scores, bottom of the ninth, other team wins, like, your whole team is suffering that loss based on your error that you committed. And it's like, it's not just you at the end of the day, it's you, your team, your coaches, your athletic trainers, your athletic department, your school in general. They're the ones that kind of like have to suffer that loss based on, one error that you could have possibly made. So there's like a lot more in depth of like what happens if there is an error, and vice versa too, with winning too. If you get the winning run, right? Like, your team benefits, not just you that benefits.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the difference between that team thing. But yeah.
No, I think that's a good point too, because like I could lose my match and our team could still win. So like I still could feel terrible about myself for losing and not competing and getting a point for us. But you just needed, it was best of 7, so you needed to win 4 of the matches, and other people could win those matches for you. So at the end of the day, it was you still wanted to go out there and compete your best, but it wasn't like the outcome sometimes isn't dependent on you to actually succeed, which is crazy.
Kind of how it was in gymnastics. You go out there, and there was a couple years I actually had a team of 3, but like for your team score, they take the top 3 scores on every event. So if you have a team of 10 kids, you only count 3 scores. So it's one of those, I might not have contributed to the team score. So my poor performance didn't directly hurt the team, but it took me out of medal contention. Maybe we still won as a team because my teammates went out and hit that event and we won, but like I was so disappointed in myself. And I was definitely one of those kids that even if I performed poorly and the team won, it was still a bad meet.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't separate the two. And honestly, even if the team didn't do well, but I won, it didn't feel good either. Like I needed the win on both of them. And I think, that's where I really could have benefited from a mental performance coach probably. But I think, I always considered my own results kind of higher, I guess, maybe.
I feel like I always ask my athletes that, like, if you play well and your team loses, how do you handle that or react to that or feel about that versus your team loses and you did have like the best game, And I think it's interesting to hear the response. And I think a lot of them are like, I've never really thought about that before. Yeah. But I think that is a similarity. And I felt like that was more just for the team athletes versus the individual, but it sounds like it is kind of both.
I was gonna say, I feel like we almost went into this thinking there's gonna be more of a dichotomy, but I think there is, regardless of the sport maybe, and I'm sure we could find a couple of examples that don't fit this, but it's like you have your own performance, so that makes you an individual athlete. Yeah. But you do have that overall team dynamic.
Because I was even thinking, like, because I swam all throughout high school, middle school, like I've swam my whole life other than college, and like that felt like a team sport. Like that is technically an individual sport, but it really did feel like a team sport too. Because I kind of like you were saying, Abby, like even though I was going against people that were on my team in like a heat, I had people at the end of my lane cheering for me and cheering for the other girl or the other 2 people in the heat. And like, it's interesting that like sports are able to pull people together even when
it's an individual.
It's like, I don't know.
So maybe that's not where the difference lies as much. Is there a difference, and maybe we can kind of switch gears to this, is there a difference between female sports and male sports? Because I think this is where we're going to find a little bit more of a difference. So Brayden and Michael, why don't you give us an idea of what was your team dynamics like? What was the team cohesion? Like, how did that work outside of maybe just practices? Or like, what was that like from the male sport perspective?
Take it.
You want me to go first?
Yeah,
I guess individually, like with our tennis team, we were just guys being dudes. Like it was just very easy, very simple.
Well said.
Not really much anything really going on. We just knew what we needed to do. We'd all warm up, chat, have our little jokes, and then, you know, player matches, and then cheer on each other when you finish, or cheer on each other throughout, and then you kind of just end. Bus ride backs are pretty fun. You usually try to stop somewhere. Bus trips there are even better. But you know, that was just kind of it. There wasn't really much going on. I guess team cohesion wise, we were a pretty tight knit group. So that was always nice.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, baseball and football, obviously the strengths. I've been around those teams and kind of those atmospheres for a long time, but yeah, I would say not much drama on the male side. I don't know. I don't really know what
Carly
was
and I
going
are
to
just
go.
sitting here laughing.
Yeah, not much
I feel like
drama.
I know where
just,
you guys are going to take it.
Just yeah, guys being guys, right? I mean, bus rides there, bus rides back. Lots of weekends, lots of time spent together. Lots of just some video game stuff, just some other games that we played. Just kind of hanging out, going to do different things in different cities where we were playing that next day or that night. So yeah, it was more just a. I think you just said it perfectly. Just guys being guys. There really wasn't much. I would say the only thing I can kind of point out in a male sport would be like the level of intensity, though, to start versus not to start is a big deal. And I see that with a lot of the athletes I work with now. Is like, you know, if you are second string football, you are backup baseball somewhere, right? Or you're not the starting pitcher. Like, I feel like there's something there that you want that. So you want what's best for your team. You want what's best for that player, for sure. But at the end of the day, you're like, I wish I was in that spot. And sometimes there creates that sort of aggression and like, hey, like, what do I have to do to somehow beat this kid out, even though he's still on the same team? So I would say maybe there's something a little bit there, more so in football than baseball, because there's obviously first string, second string, possibly third string football. So there's a lot of room to move up, but also get demoted a little bit, move down a little bit. So I guess that's the only thing I can kind of point out as something in male sports that I've recognized.
It's a lot more competitive,
adrenaline, right?
And not that it maybe isn't in women's sports, but a lot of more just like, you know, commanding and even demanding respect from your teammates sometimes when you're out there, like to earn that spot, like you were just talking about. Like you have to go out there and show that you really kind of want it more so than anything else.
Wanting to be the starting person, right? Wanting to always start. Everyone wants to start, but there can only, on football, there can only be 11 guys on offense and 11 guys on defense. And you have a team, even the NFL, there's a team of 53 guys.
Yeah.
So not everyone's seeing the field, and that's just how it is. So
maybe that like competition to be a starter or get the position that you want comes out in more of like a aggression way.
A little bit.
It's more like crap talking, behind,
More behind the scenes versus like right in your face.
Yeah, and I don't know if, you know, either of you guys can kind of talk to this. You know, I'm working with, he's a baseball player, but also a golfer. And like the kids on his golf team, like they're jerks. Like they are just straight up jerks. They will, you know, be just blatantly bullies to these kids. And I think, you know, I can rationalize it comes from a place of insecurity. It comes from like poor, you know, examples of their older siblings or their parents who just kind of think this is acceptable way to kind of talk and treat, you know, other players. But have you ever experienced that? Just like guys on your teams that are just jerks and just want to be mean for no other reason than
to put you down.
Like, have you either of you experienced that or have known friends that have been on teams like that?
Yeah, I mean, I've actually really haven't experienced myself. I guess I could say I've been pretty lucky to have some good teams growing up, especially in high school and then college. But no, I know the scene. Like I know friends that have been on that team that have had issues with bullying and stuff like that, and kind of picking on each other. But yeah, I think it's tough because like there's a stand like. My one friend, he wanted, you know, he's on a team, but he's getting bullied a little bit, right? Like, you want to stay on that team, but, like, at the end of the day, like, he hated showing up, but he loved playing the sport. So it kind of, like, gives that, you know, give to it a little bit there.
Yeah, and I think you kind of put it perfectly. Like, it's tough to define that line, especially, like, you may or may not see it, but, like, between, like, all the joking around and then what the actual, like, if there's that bullying, if it leads to that bullying type piece, too. And I think it came down to a lot of times on all the teams I was on, it was, you know, our coaches, how well they had handle and control of the team, but also who the captains were, because they were the ones that had that respect piece, and you listened to them, and whatever they did kind of is what you kind of followed. Exactly. They set
so maybe
tone.
from that male perspective, just because I know my own personal perspective, and Carly, I think you'll kind of back me up on it. It's a little more direct If you don't like somebody, you're going to tell them you don't like them. If you have an issue and you want to you take the joking too far, it's very direct to your face. They are not going to try to hide it.
Straight up.
Is that kind of what you...
I would say so.
100%.
100%?
Straight up.
Total
So-
opposite with girls.
I was going to say,
Definitely
I
like to switch
could
the-
not. And Carly, I'll let you go after I give this one example. But, you know, I remember so distinctly 2 incidences that I think sum up female sports better than I can ever in my experience. One was, it was before practice. I was later in my gymnastics career, and I had a teammate that, unbeknownst to me, and I only found this out because thankfully the rest of my teammates shot it down. But this one girl looked at all my teammates and just said, let's just ignore Abby today. Like, let's just not talk to her to see what she thinks about that.
That sounds about right.
And I don't know if it was, I think it was a mom.
Great character building.
I think there was a mom that she was just like, oh, no, we're not playing that game, whatever. But like for no other reason than she just thought it would be funny if everybody gave me the cold shoulder that day and let me sweat a little bit about it. So I remember that. I think that is a prime example.
Number one.
Yep.
Example number 2, going back to my favorite event, bars. You know, there's the bars and then there's a chalk bucket. And the chalk is the things you put on your hand that help you, one, stay on the bar and not slip off the bar kind of thing. It's like the white powder, weightlifters use it a lot. I'm on the bar and, you know, I'm jumping from low bar to high bar, and I can hear 2 of my teammates talking about how bad I am and gossiping about me in the chalk bucket while I'm on the bar. And I remember distinctly saying, I can hear you. I'm like, there's not a wall up around it. And then I got in trouble for talking in the middle of my turn. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I don't even remember what they were saying. It mattered so much to me at the time. But that moment has stuck with me. Those 2 things, it's a lot of years, probably 20 years since one of those incidences. And I still distinctly remember, I can, picture the set of bars. I know what leotard I was in. Like, I know everything about it, that they just were like crap talking me in the chalk bucket. And I was like, I can hear you. Like,
Well, does that make you guys want to be a girl at this point? Like, if
Yeah,
you
do you
want
I will stick to the male
wish you could go
sports.
back?
No, I will. Yeah, no, I don't.
I mean, I feel like what is tossed around in our office all the time is just, and it's, we're female here. Like, girls are mean, and they
Girls
can be
are
very mean.
so
And I think there's 2 aspects to that. I think it can come out of a place of insecurity, 1,000,000%. That's usually the case. And I think it's just like hormones, cattiness, being followers. Like, you just were trying to fit in. Girls are always just trying to fit in. Guys are like, I don't care. Like, girls are like, how can I be popular? How can I fit in with the cool kids?
Yeah.
Like, and what is this person doing? They're talking crap. Okay, let's talk crap, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna fit in if I do that. So I think it's I even had a team yesterday that I was working with, and one of the players on the team wasn't there that day, and they were all like recognizing that the girl that wasn't there was talking crap about everyone else. And I was like, okay, let's talk about this.
Let's talk through this.
Like, it's just, it is crazy how girls, you guys, the comparison comes out in anger. It comes out in cattiness, emotions. How can I put this person down and make them feel bad about themselves? Whether that's from a performance standpoint or like a character standpoint. So it's fun being a girl.
I would say that's just interesting how I think both of them come from a place of insecurity and wanting to be the best, but the way that those are shown are so different.
Now, I will say, I do think maturity plays a large role in that, because my college experience could not have been better. We were literally all best friends.
Yeah.
Like, yes, we had other friends outside of the sport, but truly, we genuinely cared about every single one of the people on the team. We all still do. Like, they are genuinely my best friends. They would do anything for me. I would do anything for them. And we wanted the best for each other. Like, I remember my conditioning test, going back to conditioning, my conditioning test, we did the Manchester run test. It was like, literally gave me the worst anxiety for like months leading up to it. It was so hard. And I remember just struggling to pass it. And my 2 friends literally dragged me as tears are falling out of my eyes to the finish line. And truly, like, if you passed it, you would play. So like, if they could have left me and been like, hey, you suck, like, go figure it out. And they literally dragged me till the end to get me to pass that so I could play and like start and all of those things. So there are some good things. I don't want us to sound like we're being
and I think it just comes down to like, I don't know, how do we fix that? How do we change it so that guys aren't being jerks to each other, and you're not necessarily having to just be aggressive to get your name recognized, and so girls don't have to just put each other down. Like, how do we fix that? And I think, Michael, you said something along the lines of, it comes down to the captains, it comes down to the coaches so much of the time. And talk to your coaches, talk to your captains, and just be like, hey, this is what's going on. And this is, for lack of a better word, like, this is unacceptable. Like, this is not the team I want to be on. Like, this is embarrassing almost that this is the culture of this team. We need to fix this. We need to do something about it. Sometimes the coaches are the problem. Sometimes the coaches just turn a blind eye to it, or the captains are the ones that are the worst at it. And, so for any of you, what would you say to that athlete? That their team cohesion, individual sport, team sport, female, male teams, like, their captains aren't listening or just don't have the voice to it, or their coaches are not listening or don't have the voice to change it. Like, what would you tell that athlete that just feels like their team cohesion is not matching what they need it to be? What would you want them to know?
I would say, like, lead by example. Like, if you can't actually get rules to change or have, like, the coach of the team set, like, better standards and expectations and rules, lead by example. If you see people talking crap about other people, shut it down. You're not going to be the bad guy. Yeah, they might talk crap about you, but you're doing the right thing.
Right.
And I think, like, if you are leading by example in a physical performance standpoint and just, like, a cohesion, inclusiveness, supportiveness, like, standpoint, everyone else is going to follow on board.
Yeah.
They're gonna follow, and especially if you are a captain on the team, you are already a natural leader. People have recognized you as a leader. Like, people are going to be like, you know what? She's not doing this. I'm not going to do this.
Right. And eventually, I'm going to be the last man standing trying to do this.
Exactly, and you're gonna look dumb.
Yeah.
So.
I think that is one of the ways to fix it, though, is you might not even be a natural born leader, but if you see all this happening and you want the changes to happen within your team, then you might have to step out of your comfort zone and go out and actually do it yourself. Be the one to set the tone. Be the one that makes these changes in the way that you're performing, on the field or on the course or on the court, and then actually, behind the scenes, what you're doing, what you're saying, what you're talking to people, how you guys hang out, what you guys talk about, what you guys do, just being that, like, person in control and setting the tone. Even if it's your coach, even if you have a good or bad coach, sometimes it's getting all the guys together, because we'd go be out there on the court, it's just you out there, and be there out there when I used to run and stuff, it'd just be us running for 40 minutes through the streets. Like, you just have to figure it out and be that person sometimes to actually step up and take control of the team. If you don't like what's going on and you want to set a culture change, you have to be the person to sometimes step up and do that.
I like what you said there too, like, that set the tone, right? Because, like, some of the best teams I've been on, it starts at the top, right? Because if you have a great leader, you have a great system, new freshmen, whether it's in high school or college, they come in, they plug right into the system. There's a reason why for a while there, Alabama football was so good. They just knew people in, fit into the culture, they adopt their culture, and they just win all the time. You see the cultures in football, in any sport really, that are dominant, and you wonder, why are they dominant? Well, they have a good culture, because when people come in, new athletes come in, they adopt the culture. The leaders step in right away. Hey, this is how we do things here. And
either get on board or
you
get out.
Get on board or get out. And that's how you start adopting a culture, right? But I think, like, if for any athlete that has or feels their team doesn't have a great culture right now, I mean, I really agree with what you said there. Like, set the tone. Like, maybe you're the person to start it. There's going to have to be somebody at some point that's going to say, hey, I'm going to be the leader, and I'm going to set the tone right here.
You might
I'm
not
going to
get the title of being the leader,
Right.
but you're going to, you can be that silent.
Which I think is overrated anyway, truly.
Yes.
Like, having the captain title is, I think it's overrated.
And it's great in the right hands.
Yes.
It's great in the right hands.
I've had the greatest captains, and they
But
set the tone,
yeah.
but I've also had the worst.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. And then I think, there's that aspect of things. I think there's also a little bit of you might not like it. It might not be fun. You might not be able to change it. You can, try. You might not always get there. But, like, at the end of the day, stay true to what you know is right and what you know is wrong, and let those people do their thing. You might not get invited to the team dinners. They might exclude you from the group chats. They might be the one, you are the prime suspect of who they are talking about. That's almost a compliment. Those are not the people you want to be around. Those are not the people that are going to serve you. And eventually, Braden, you said this, there's going to be that incoming group of freshmen. There's going to be that next wave of people, and there might just be that one lone kid in that one, right? Find the next person that's going to come in and be like, that's my type of person. You have to put up with your teammates, but you have to be friendly, but you don't have to be their friends. And that's okay. You don't have to be best friends with everybody on your team, and it's okay if you don't get along with them or agree with their philosophies on things. But but it's okay. It's okay if you don't fit in that kind of situation. Take it as a compliment.
Definitely.
Take it as a compliment. It's a lot easier said than done. You're going to still have those
100%.
days where you're like, why does this bother me? Why does it bother me that I can't, just get on board with the rest of the team? And that's going to happen in all aspects of your life, your friend groups, whatever it might be. And that's okay, right? Find the people, whatever that team looks like. Your team can be 3 or 4, guys or girls on your team. It doesn't necessarily mean, the whole team in general for that team cohesion. Find the people within your system that are on your team that buy into your philosophy of what you think should be team cohesion. Lean on that, and eventually you're going to add more to your pack, and the rest of them are going to fizzle out because they're just going to be too miserable to keep going with it.
Right.
Snaps to everything you just said.
Yeah.
So true.
And,
So
we're all able to come up with this. We all had to kind of suffer through it at certain points, so it's a lot
there were
easier.
moments where I was like, am I crazy? Like, why?
You really start to be
you
like,
feel
what is
alone?
wrong with me?
And maybe this is more of a girl thing. Like, I don't know if you guys can relate to that as much, but yeah.
So, I think, in our last episode too, we kind of were talking about, and kind of here too, like, be weird, be the odd man out. Like, you're going to find your team, you're going to find your people.
And always be yourself too.
Yeah, there you go.
Always be yourself. That's what makes life great. That's what makes sports great too. Having all these different personalities.
Yeah.
And obviously, you see your NFL jerseys, right? Every person we're wearing has a different personality, has something different they bring to the game, and that's really what makes it
Michael's
great.
gonna start punching
You got the GOAT over here, but it is what it
Goat.
is.
The GOAT.
The goat.
Tom Brady.
I was gonna say
happy we're all in
I was gonna
agreement
say
on
I
that.
will never. I can't.
Perfect.
I don't like the Patriots, but I will respect them until the day that I die. I don't have to like them. I can, be a big competitor and be a big whatever. But they've earned my respect, right? So the team cohesion might not be there, but I at least respect who they are, kind of thing.
I'm on the other couch.
We did have to separate the two of them. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think that kind of like diverted a little bit from where we originally thought this conversation of team cohesion was going to be. But I think, maybe we discovered there isn't as big of a difference in teams. So, that's also kind of nice because go to your friends that play other sports. You guys are probably going through the same things. Male or female might have a little bit more difference, but, lean on your team, whatever that might be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool that like it just went totally opposite of what we thought it was going to be, but I think
That's
that's
good.
And we
what's
planned this out.
Yeah.
It did
Yeah.
not go according to the original plan.
but I think
perfect.
Good.
right, and I think that's just why we do this, because these are the real conversations that athletes, former athletes, end up having, and it's what we reflect on from our own careers and from our own professional work and things like that too. That some athlete somewhere is going to take something from it.
For
so.
sure.
100%.
Just taking the idea and running with it in whatever way we think from our experiences. So.
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
absolutely.
All right. Well, everybody, good luck with the games this weekend.
Yes.
We will recap, week 1, what happens.
For sure.
Good luck with your drafts. Your
good luck with your
7
drafts.
Braden has
Whoever-
7 drafts.
The draft's already set because week 1 already started.
Well,
That's
good
true.
luck.
Lineups
with
Yeah,
are set.
I was going to say.
Lots to manage.
Yeah, good luck with that. It's gonna be another full-time job for you. So, well, cool. Well, we will talk to you all soon.
See you
All
next
right.
time.
Go
See
Bills.
you next week.
Go Birds.
Go Pats.
If you like what you're listening to, be sure to follow the Athlete Cafe on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. You can find us wherever you enjoy listening to your podcasts.